halfway point of the season here in Season 12 of the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV. Hello everybody, welcome along to this broadcast, coming to you for the first time in this series from Fuji Speedway, and what a magnificent venue it is for an endurance round of this championship. Paul Smith and Lorenzo Bonda is joining us here on the commentary here today, and Lorenzo, we've got an hour and 45 minutes of racing action around this track. It should be a good one tonight.
It should be a good one tonight. Of course, I'm not Chaz Draycott or Peter Mackay to try to cover it as well as they do. I think they're busy. One is busy drinking wines, the other is busy drinking margaritas, but I'll try to be the next best thing.
Certainly, it's yeah, Peter's wife not allowing him to work on his honeymoon, so congratulations to Peter on his nuptials. But yeah, as I say, we are at Fuji Speedway. We're at the halfway point of the championship. Don't worry, you're not missing a thing. The drivers are just finishing off qualifying. We started off this season back in July at Barcelona. Then we headed to Imola and Monza for the first part of the season. Then we headed over to the United States for Road Atlanta, Road America and Daytona last time out. Then, as I say, we're at Fuji today. We head back across the Pacific to Long Beach, and then it's down under to Phillip Island, and then after that we get another break, and then we're back to Europe for Spa-Francorchamps, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. And this championship, I mean, this could not get any closer, especially in your pro standings, because as it stands right now, just 5 points separate the two Pure Sims Esports teammates of Alex Davidson and Ross McFarlane. Alex Gall has 106 points off of that championship lead. Then there's a little bit of a gap back to Michael Evdoka, James Armstrong, Jack Sedgwick, Jacob Majewski, Mark Fletcher, Yanis Albert and Josh Thompson round out the top 10 of the pro standings. Well, I said it couldn't get any closer. It is even closer in the Pro-Am standings. Just 3 points separate the Full Tilt V Motorsport driver of Paul Webster and the Evo SR driver of last season's Pro-Am champion Mark Hutchinson, with his teammate Chris van der Ness not that far behind him. Andy Archer for Century Sim Esports not that far back either, along with Jensen Adrianson, Richard Timner, Ethan Critchley, Michael Gray, Matthias Drozda and Mike Horder, of course, former Pro-Am champion. In your Am Championship, it is a little bit more of a gap there. 27 points separate Jesse Payne Wilkins for the Parabellum Racing Team Similability. Get words in there. Adam Hedgecock for Altitude Esports Blue, second place, as I say, 27 points behind, with Paddy Faulkner 35 points off the lead, with Martin de Jong, Jack Osborne, Paul Crawford, Sarah Raab, Lars Van Rijn, Ed May and Jim Whitehouse rounding out the top 10. It is an endurance round of the championships. That means that we have a look at the endurance standings. There's been 2 endurance races so far this season, and Ross McFarlane leads those standings ahead of Mark Hutchinson in second place, with Paddy Faulkner in third. Alex Gall then next best in fourth, with Chris van der Ness, Martin de Jong, Ethan Critchley, Mike Evdoka, Jesse Payne Wilkins and Adam Hedgecock rounding out the top 10 of your Enduro Cup standings. In the team standings, well, it is domination at the front of Pro for Pure Sims Esports. 316 points separate them and Maradna Satellite E-Stars, with Altitude Esports in third place. Evo SR, well, they lead the Pro-Am Teams Championship. Then there's Full Tilt V Motorsport and Brabham Esports. DCW Racing is the next Pro-Am team in 7th place ahead of Century Sim Esports. Parabellum Racing Team Simability and Boosted Virage round out the top 10 of your team standings. So, drivers are just finishing off their qualifying here today, Lorenzo. We've got 2 mandated pit stops coming up for you in this particular race. What are the drivers going to have to compete with here today?
Well, it's going to be interesting. We're going to go into a track that I think is one of the widest this season. Of course, we have to talk about the long straight. I think it has to be the longest straight of the whole season, because I don't consider Daytona when you come out of the the bus stop actually a proper straight itself. It does have a curve, it does have the NASCAR curve, but you have more than a kilometer that stretches it out on the final turn into the turn number 1, where will be the main passing opportunity if you are within the draft, and this basically will be key. But field safety might be a question right here, because you get a faster track. You don't have the Dunlop. You don't have basically the Dunlop corner, which is turn number 10, 11, and 12. So you have the faster stretch. It is cut off. So you basically cut 2 corners, and the fuel mileage might actually play a factor right here. So maybe stretch it out, maybe to 50 minutes to 55, and try to get a possibility of another cut. It's going to be an interesting track to say the least, but obviously one of the hardest for you to overtake due to the aero push, especially in sector 2 and 3.
Yeah, certainly going to be an interesting challenge for those drivers. As you say, we've not got that really tight chicane down at turn 10. So the drivers don't have to contend with that. So it should be a little bit less clumsy, especially on lap 1. But it is a fast right-hander as that turn 10 without that chicane climbing uphill. The undulation is big around here, so that's something that the drivers are going to have to contend with. But with that, the qualifying is over, and we will be able to give you your starting grid in just a second's time. But I can tell you, once again, it's Ross McFarlane who sets himself a pole position for Pure Sims Esports. Then it is Jack Sedgwick in second place, Alex Davidson third with Michael Evdoka, James Armstrong, Mike Fletcher, and Alex Gall. And the rest of the field, we're going to have to be quick here because for some reason we've got a standing start. So it is going to be Ethan Critchley then. Further down, you've got Pro-Ams. Your top Pro-Am is Ethan Critchley, Tom Brown. Your top Am is Adam Hedgecock in 15th place. And the rest of your grid coming through here, and drivers are going to get caught out by this because, well, we've seen this once or twice before in this series. Not this season, but we have seen it in past seasons where the admins have maybe set the session up incorrectly. So it's going to be interesting, Lorenzo, to see a standing start with GT3 cars.
I did not expect that at all, to be very honest, because I think there's still few cars, especially Ross McFarlane, to grid up here, Paul. But other than that, how do you start a GT3, a heavy car, without traction control and launch? Man, it's going to be an interesting launch, especially that running to turn number 1, man, it's going to get crazy.
Well, I mean, one thing is, with it being a standing start, it means that the drivers aren't going to be going quite as fast into turn number 1, so not carrying as much speed as there would have been if it was a rolling start. So drivers preparing themselves, getting themselves ready for this one. It is an hour and 45 minutes is this race, and well, we're all set then for the start of this race. The revs will rise. Drivers look up to the gantry. We've got a green light, and what a launch from Jack Sedgwick in that Ferrari. But look at the second row of the grid. Alex Davidson coming through the middle of the front of the field. Sedgwick is in the lead of this one, but Davidson trying to go around the outside of turn number 1. There's contact for Alex Gall. Oh, the nightmare for the Miranda Satellite E-Stars driver, but Jack Sedgwick currently leads this race ahead of Alex Davidson. Ross McFarlane got an awful start from pole position. He's got James Armstrong for Brabham Esports right behind him. The rest of your field are working their way through, trying to get themselves into whatever places that they can, because these are the early stages. Cold tyres, cold brakes, where you've really got to try and take advantage and gain as many places as possible, Lorenzo.
Especially on lap number 1. But what a launch from Sedgwick, you know, just taking advantage out of the Ferrari launch, and McFarlane with a very big fumble on the start. Now they're going to the fast turn over here, turn number 10, and this is another overtaking opportunity that can get very messy. And look at that in the back.
Oh, that's one of the DCW racing cars. Paddy Faulkner, of course, one of your drivers that's going for an AM championship here. He drops down the order. He's down to 38th. We've had issues for Jim Whitehouse, for Brendan Stacey and Jack Belton as well on lap 1. So these drivers having to do it the hard way from the back. But as we head towards the end of lap 1, and it is Jack Sedgwick who leads this one, Alex Davidson in second with Ross McFarlane third, James Armstrong fourth ahead of Michael Evdoka with Mark Fletcher, Ethan Critchley, the top Pro-Am driver, in 7th place ahead of Tom Brown, another Pro-Am driver. And further down your order, Matthias Drozda. Now, this is somebody who has impressed in a number of these rounds of this championship, and he can make some moves, make some positions. He's in 15th at the moment. We've got yellow flags at turn 1. It's Jared Caroni. Oh my goodness, it goes from bad to worse. And Kevin Kittleman was another one of those drivers involved in that incident as well. So dropping down the order, and dropping down the order is Matthias Drozda there. Must have got himself a slowdown penalty.
Oh,
Contact
no.
behind, into the wall. It's Martin de Jong for Parabellum Racing Team Simability. Fortunately for him, though, he hit a tyre barrier. At least it's not as bad as hitting that solid Armco.
Yeah, that's the only thing it can be pleasant about, because it is going to drop like a rock basically into the last position on this track. But this is the kind of the good thing, right, Paul? People are close to one another. You can make up the position just due to the chaos, especially going to turn number 1. So it will be a letdown for Martin, obviously, but man, race control is going to be quite busy in a little bit.
Well, of course, any incidents involved in these races in the World GT Championship, they have a team of stewards who look at things post-event. So you won't see any in-race penalties unless people reach the incident point limit, which I can tell you in one of these races is 24 incident points. We've got people trying to use the slipstream. Ashley Finch for 3M UK into turn number 1, hard onto the brakes, and well, the car in front not wanting him to go past at the moment, so having to stay in line as they come out of turns number 1 and 2. Heading into 3 then, this quick left-hander. You always think that you can carry more speed than you can, and then this turn 4 and 5 really frustrating to go around. As speaking of going around, let's Drozda. Oh, that's a huge T-bone. That was one of the 3 Spy Motorsports cars. This Phil Samways is around as well. Oh, what an absolute nightmare. I think it was Ed May who T-boned him there. Wow, it seems to be a race of attrition, and we're only on lap number 3.
I'm getting shades of Daytona, and I don't like to see that. What is happening? I know Fuji is not one of the easiest tracks, not by a mile, especially on cold tires, and they're still building up the heat. It will take about one more lap to be in optimal temperature, but it's a little bit more atrocious than I initially expected, to be very honest with you, Paul. And man, I'm slightly surprised, but then again, May right there just caught up by surprise. Not even his fault.
Well, you know, you can't. I mean, there's very little that Ed May could do there. He's coming around that corner. Absolutely. He's blind to it, and if he's got a car alongside him, which he did, he's got nowhere that he can go. All he can do is hit the brakes and say, well, hopefully I don't make any contact. As do you know what? Pro-Am driver Ethan Critchley right now has the fastest lap of the race. It's worth pointing that out right now. He's the Pro-Am leader, and that BMW seems to be going really well around here in these opening stages.
Wait, is that Evdoka?
Oh, that is Evdoka. Evdoka around. That's at turn 6 and 7.
Oh my god.
And he's got to wait there. That's the thing. If he tries to move when there's a car coming round, the other cars don't know where he's going to go. So he's doing the best thing that he can do, but it's the worst thing in terms of his driving position. Oh, and there's a Team Mad car right into the front of him. I mean, to be fair to him, Evdoka's doing nothing wrong by waiting patiently, but that Team Mad car ends up nose to nose with Evdoka.
Yeah, and man, that is the worst spot because you're right at the apex exit of the hairpin. So nothing you could do right there for Avdoka. I wonder if that was all by himself. I saw there was maybe slight contact with Avdoka going to the hairpin, and that's why he might have been around. But man, what a carnage this first 4 laps have been.
Well, I mean, hopefully we can calm these lot down because get a motor race going here rather than dodgems. This is absolutely crazy, but we are at the end of lap 4 onto lap 5, and well, let's see. At the front, it's still Cedric, Davidson, and McFarlane. Cedric's trying to make a breakaway here at the front in that Ferrari. That car looks really good and really well balanced around here. Those at Mercedes, though, they are so strong, aren't they, Lorenzo, in this GT3 class? And of course, we had the new build of iRacing a couple of weeks ago, and no real changes to the balance of performance. But Cedric shows the class of the driver, doesn't it, that he's able to get what he can out of that Ferrari.
Yeah, and we also have to take in mind that we have our own kind of like balance of performance in the GT Championship. So, but the job that Jack is doing with this Ferrari is nothing less than phenomenal. You know, you try to keep a stronger car in the downforce that is a Mercedes that is going to be sucked in this long straight, and it's going to be really close. And we have to follow the BMWs and the Porsche, which in the new balance of performance that we have for the new season is supposed to be the better car. But other than that, it's just some slightly shot that you know, it just proves how good Jack Sedgwick is trying to find a setup that works for his cars and being successful at it.
Here comes Mark Fletcher down the inside of Ethan Critchley then. That's the Altitude Esports driver, getting the move done on the Century Sim Racing driver. They come out of that turn. Of course, Ethan Critchley, race winner at Monza, don't forget. So he knows what it takes to win races. That was a sprint round, though. I did see in the chat earlier about what is the format for these different races. Well, this one tonight is an endurance race. It's an hour and 45-minute race. There's 2 mandated pit stops. That means that you have to have 2 pit stops to get yourselves to the end of this race. If you do not take 2 pit stops, you will be disqualified from the results post event. Then you've got next week, which is 2 feature races, which is 2 40-minute races with 1 mandated pit stop. Again, you have to take that pit stop in that 40-minute race to be eligible to score points. And then the final type of race that you have is a sprint round, and that is 3 20-minute races and no pit stops involved in that one. It is just a flat-out sprint to the checkered flag. But I'll tell you what, this has been a sprint at the start of a marathon. It's like we've got the 100 meters final has started for the marathon race.
Yeah, and you could either say it's a 100-meter sprint or it's a 110 hurdle. So given the fact that we had so many cars behind, as we see Chris Van Den Ness trying to look for that overtake on the DCWR car, covering the inside here, Paul, and here comes the dive 3 wide.
Yeah, not quite getting alongside there is Chris, and in fact he left the door open, and that's allowed a driver to go past Van Den Ness. That's Ashley Finch who's gained a position then on Van Den Ness. So Finch in that 3M car trying to move forward in that one, but it's 10 minutes of this race has absolutely flown by as we've got one of the full tilt V Motorsport drivers coming in. Well, that Audi, the AAA, that's Paul Webster. Did he move across the line of the Maradna Satellite E-Stars car? I do have that funny feeling, that sneaky suspicion that he was moving across on them. Spins around. Fortunately, plenty of runoff there, so he's able to carry on. Have a look at that again. Oh, he's held his line, hasn't he? And the Maradna Satellite E-Stars car is coming in to just try and open the corner a little bit, and 2 into 1 does not go. Unfortunately, Paul did not collect anyone else.
He got lucky because he wouldn't be able to break in time and try to stop that car in time. Just going around the apex of the hairpin, and there were cars going around it. It's tricky, as we see what happened to David Nichols, just coming back across the track on turn number 10, then try to come back cleanly. And what an avoidance from the car right behind. I don't know who that was. Might have been Vandernass, but regardless, good awareness right there.
It certainly is. That's fantastic awareness then. So I was saying that we were 10 minutes into this race and it's flown by. Well, we're still getting plenty of action out there, as Ashley Finch has actually lost a position to Simner. I can see on the timing screen on our left-hand side of our screen here, the timing tower. Keep up to date with everything going along there. As we'll have a look then at some replays. Here's Jack Belton. This is on lap number 1 to see what happened to him. So this is on the run downhill, and he's tried to avoid contact, and he's ended up just nosing the inside wall. And that was on that run downhill towards turn number 10. Then we've got the next replay. Paddy Faulkner. This is what happened to him when he ended up taking to the grass. Runs it wide onto the grass on the outside, and just a little tap. Nothing that Audi could do about that. And Faulkner finds himself off track there. Here's what happened to Jim Whitehouse now. Century Sim Racing driver up there in Warrington, in Cheshire. Oh, and there's, again, the car to the inside. 2 into 1 does not go. And then, yet more replays. This is what happened to Kevin Kittleman. End of lap 1. He's come across as the Porsche. Oh, Kittleman's going to get wiped out by that Maradness car. And Kittleman very much the innocent party in all of that, Lorenzo.
I'm just trying to find that number 78, which was Jawad Karoni. Man, he was not having the race of his life right here, as we see what happened to Martin Dion going to the hairpin. We saw that on live cams, and just completely taken out. I don't know if the front got way too damaged, but anyways, Andy Gilmore now same place, 3 wide, just big dives, and the BMW taking 1 for 2.
That was your own Kaiser. Oh, that replay is just, that'll make Connery Maddock cringe somewhere out there in the UK. Here's what happened to Drozda then. He lost it, and then watch, coming around, Ed May, he's taken the tight line, he thinks he's going to avoid him. Bang, up and over. Here we get a look. This is not what you want to see when you're coming around a corner.
No, this is suboptimal to say the very least, and May just, if you try to deviate to the left and try to flex the car to the left, the car would spin out because you're trying to change direction very quickly, and nothing you could do right there, and unfortunately boning him in the process.
And that is Phil Samway's spin in sympathy, trying to avoid what happened there. And still the replays come. Here's what happened to Michael Evdoka then. Again, down at the hairpin. This has been a real key point of it. And that's a dive to the inside. So that was Mark Fletcher. That's why Fletcher lost the place to Critchley. And Michael Blake coming along around the corner. All of a sudden, oh, there's a Mercedes there. He's trying to tighten his steering up there, and there's just very little that he can do.
Yeah, nothing he can do right there, and that's just the worst case scenario for a driver, isn't it? Whenever you kind of like boxed in, and there's nothing you can do right in the middle of the mayhem. So yeah, these first few laps are a little bit crazier than usual. I did not expect this for Fuji, but now that it's calmed down, let's see what Pete Harrod is going to do on the outside. That curve doesn't favor him one bit. Pete
Harrod, of course, former champion of the World GT Championship Season 7. And he's now racing for Century Sim Racing. He won that championship for the then CQR team into the back of Ben Gregory. I do believe that he's racing with. It is Gregory. Will weave the car, just make sure that it's still going in the correct line.
Or actually, regardless.
Carries on, and Pete, well, he'll carry on. Of course, he used to actually drive a BMW when he used to compete in drifting competitions, so he knows how to handle a BMW, does Pete.
Nice. I keep wondering what BMW would actually drift on an E30 or something other than the E30. They usually use that, but anyway.
I think it was the E30 that he used, yes. as we've got to change up towards the front. McFarlane has got ahead of his championship rival, Alex Davidson. So change position there for the two Pure Sims cars. I don't think there will be any team orders now in that team. I think it'll very much be a case of, look, as long as you don't wipe each other out, go at it, boys, and get yourselves a championship.
I think that order went out of the books or thrown into the bin after the first Daytona round, right, Paul? Where they just decided to have a little bit of a drag towards the finish line and just ended just about 1,000 of a second close to one another. No problem for Pure Sims. Well, they're happy, but anyway, I think Davidson, the problems was actually the Road America round, right? Where he should have capitalized race number 1, but just couldn't after this tough bunt pull. Otherwise, I think this gap would have been much more in favor towards Davidson.
Yeah, Davidson has really come on in this championship, and he's really picked up. He was starting to look strong last season, and this season he's just started off on fire. Ross McFarlane, not a 3-time consecutive champion by accident, seasons 9, 10 and 11. Of course, we're in season 12 now of this championship, so McFarlane, he knows what it takes to win a championship, he knows what it takes to win endurance races, but so does Alex Davidson. This season, both of them have won outright the endurance rounds so far that we've had. 2 endurance rounds so far, one at Barcelona, and then the other one was at Road Atlanta, and both of them have got a win under their belt. So each of them know how to win these endurance rounds. Davidson just patiently waiting behind. This is the long game now, isn't it, Lorenzo? This is where finally drivers are getting themselves into a rhythm and trying to fuel save as much as possible.
Yeah, and I would say if there's a guy that has massive advantage right now, it has to be Davidson. You know, you're behind your teammate right now. You're trying to be within that toe, and you're just clutching the car, going to some of the corners. For example, here at turn number 10, you just clutch the car a little bit, flick it in, try to keep it clean on the outside, avoid going too strong on the accelerator on the grass, and just try to keep it straight. What boggles me a little bit is the gap that Cedric has kind of opened up, right? 1.5 seconds to McFarlane, and no signs whatsoever for the NX driver to try to save fuel.
I think this has to be his tactic. He has to try and make the breakaway at the front, because once you break that slipstream at the front of the field, we've seen it time and again that they're able to then just focus on themselves and just to pull away from the rest of the field. Cedric will be trying his best to gap that out so that when it comes to the pit stops, he's got that little bit of extra time. I can tell you, by the way, that both Jack Belton and Michael Avdoka have both officially retired from this race, so they're both out of this one. Matthias Drozda as well, he's still sat on pit road, but you might as well consider him retired because he's been nearly 14 minutes in his pit stall. We'll look a little bit further back. This is one of the Altitude Esports cars and the Full Tilt V Motorsport cars, working their way through turn 3 into 4 and 5. This double apex right-hander, Michael Gray. Thank you very much, Hugo. Currently in 11th place, 4th place in Pro-Am. He's got Adam Watson in front of him for that Full Tilt V Motorsports car. Both of them Audis. The Audis, there's few of the drivers now in this series really favouring this car. It's not quite as flighty as it used to be. Oh, there's a spinner. Who is that? That's going to be Tom Brown.
Yeah.
Brown's around in the Porsche.
I'm wondering, I think he clipped the grass from what it looks like and came back around the track, lost several spots. I think I saw more than 9 spots lost for Tom Brown right there, and a little bit unfortunate, but we're going to look on the replay real soon to see what happened to the red Autosport red driver.
It's that inside curb, and well avoided by the car behind him. It must be said, that Simability, that Parabellum Simability car, to be able to avoid him like that. But yeah, just clipping that inside curb, and it unsettles the car. Around it goes. So we're back to live pictures then. So the Evo SR driver then, that will be moving for position, looking to the inside. No positions being gained there. And that's going to be not going to be Tim Perry. That is going to be, as desperately trying to look through there, Mark Hutchinson right behind Jack Osborne. Alex Gall, recovering Gall. Now, it must be said, Gall was doing a good job of recovering. He's only now down 8 places from where he started after having that incident at turn 1 right at the start of the race. So he's making a comeback through the field here.
Yeah, which is good to see, you know, this fight back from Alex Gall. We saw him doing the, you know, this fight back position basically every single round. And the one I covered at Road America, he was trying to do his best to try to keep up with the other cars, but the Porsche wasn't the best one aerodynamic as we see the 84. Oh,
that's at 64. That's Adam State. So it's going from bad to worse for the Maradna Satellite E-Stars team. Has he just carried too much speed? He has carried too much speed into the corner, loses adherence to the track, finds reverse, gets himself out of the way, and then carries on there. But State down to 28th now. He's lost 11 places in this race so far, and it's not been the Satellite E-Stars team's day so far.
Yeah, to put him mildly, as we see Armstrong. Look at Armstrong make moves.
That's up into 3rd place for James Armstrong, sorry. The Brabham Esports driver in that BMW. Of course, unfortunately, we don't have that very good-looking Brabham GT car in iRacing, so the Brabham team electing to go with the BMW. And he finds himself now 3rd place. And Alex Davidson, is that just a case of him playing the percentages, or has he just not got the pace of those around him?
Looking at the last lap for Alex Davidson, 34.614, and James, I think, might have been related with the draft and everything, just being slightly faster. Of course, Jack is still the fastest car around the track in terms of pure pace, but it was a little bit weird to put it mildly, and something has happened to Kevin Kittleman, looks like, as he's found himself right in the middle of a big group and trying to defend his position.
Well, he's trying to get out the way of the leaders is what he's trying to do. Of course, okay. Kevin was involved. Now, let's not end up with an incident like we saw in the Super GT earlier this year down the pit straight, because we had that where a car was being lapped, they went a bit slower, and they were in a queue of cars, and the lead car of the fast ones pulled out, and the car behind him just slammed into that slower car. Fortunately, everybody aware to that. But yeah, James Armstrong, 3rd place for him. Kittleman, of course, recovering after lap number 1 incident. He has been on pit road to get a fast repair. David Nichols is actually on pit road as well, 65, so he's not having a good day out there, and in fact he has left the server, so he is another retirement from this race. 4 retirements so far in this race out of a 45 car grid here in the World GT Championship. Live on RaceSpotTV, Paul Smith and Lorenzo Bonda bringing you all the coverage. Hugo Luis behind the scenes on production, and Alex Davidson. Oh,
he's
my
struggling.
Goodness, that's a little bit heart in mouth, and that's not what you need when you're in the fight of a championship.
Yeah, and especially when you're trying to follow someone as Armstrong, right? Armstrong showing really great pace around the car, you know, midway through the race. It's not the first time we've seen Armstrong kind of like come real strong and show the power and the performance of the BMW M4 GT3 car. Now the question is Mark Fletcher going to play conservative over here, try to bump draft him into turn number 1, try to close the distance to Armstrong? If I'm Mark Fletcher right here, I'll try to take the advantage, dive down on turn number 1, try to make that overtake. But no, he doesn't do that.
He's backing out. I think Fletcher's happy with his pace right now, and he's getting a lovely double draft from in front, isn't he, as well? So he'll be happy with his place right now of just keeping in that slipstream, getting himself some lovely draft to sort out his fuel usage. The other problem is corners like that, the long sweeping right-handers will look further back at one of the boosted Virage and also DC DCWR. I'll get the words out correctly. Tim Perry just losing a position there to the DCWR car. And Tim Perry finds himself behind Paul Crawford now. That's down in 25th place. Of course, a number of these drivers giving us a great insight into their particular setups, and it really shows you the difference in driver setups. You know, some people, like you see with Tim, direct drive wheels, triple monitors. He's got the car to the inside. Bang, get out the way. Paddy Faulkner, he's trying to make a recovery after his incident on lap 1. He's forced his way through and he's moved up a position, but Tim is not having any of it.
Oh, he's trying to come back. Oh, that's kind of dangerous.
Well, Faulkner manages to hang on to it, goes a bit hot into the next corner. That allows Perry to go back past, and now Martin de Jong. He's another one who had an incident on lap number 1. He's making a recovery driver and he's working his way through as well. So Faulkner and de Jong trying to work their way through. And they've got Adam State behind them as well. So a nice little battle pack. Further down your field, 25th down to 28th, all together on track. I'm interested to see Faulkner not following. In fact, Perry going onto pit road already. That's an early stop.
That's a very early stop. You don't make 1 hour and 15 over here, 1 hour 16. Something might have happened to Tim Perry, and he doesn't look happy one bit as he goes into the lane. Even though he's drinking water, I might be feeling wrong right here.
He might just have decided that his best bet for this race is to get the short stint done to start with, and then go for the long pit stop at this pit stop now and another longer one later on. So yeah, we'll have to see how that pans out. Of course, remember, 2 mandatory pit stops in this race because the drivers do have their fuel limited in this session. It is 75%, so you normally get about 45 minutes of fuel. Now here's Adam Watson then in that Audi, 10th place behind Mike Gray, as they're heading down this long start and finish straight. Can really get a lovely slipstream, and Watson just taking his time, looking around, just checking details, making sure that the car's okay. You can almost read the Financial Times down here, although if you're a Brit right now you don't want to be doing that. In towards turn number 1, and Watson just staying behind for the time being, so I think he's happy just again doing a bit of fuel saving.
Yeah, and also, if I remember correctly, might be wrong, you really don't want to be aggressive this early on as you're approaching your pit stop and try to cut back time or try to lose time in progress. But anyway, both him and Michael Gray playing the smart game, you know, not trying to be overly aggressive on one another. Just going back into the AM battle that we saw Crawford de Jong and also Tim Perry. That has just helped Jack Osborne's case, right? And look at the gap between Osborne and the second place. It's just like there's basically a full track that separates them. Of course, I'm over-exaggerating, but still.
Yeah, you are over-exaggerating a little bit, but no, there is a decent gap, because you're quite right to point out Jack Osborne, 14th place in this race. He's just ahead of Mark Hutchinson. And he is well clear of the next AM. The next AM driver, as he said, pointed out, is Paul Crawford, down in 24th place. So there's a big gap between those two. If I just look at my timing screen, there's about 17 and a half seconds between the two of them. So they've really been going at it in terms of Osborne trying to pull away from his other AM drivers. Looking at the standings as they stand at the moment, it is Jack Sedgwick who has got a 1.8 second lead at the front of the field, ahead of Ross McFarlane in second place. James Armstrong for Brabham Esports in third place now for them. and he has got Alex Davidson and Mark Fletcher behind him. Ethan Critchley is the top Pro-Am driver in 6th place. Jensen Adriansons is the next fastest Pro-Am driver in 8th place, with Michael Gray not that far behind him in 9th. Yeah, so these drivers are really pushing on. The Sedgwick, you can see the back end just sliding out a little bit there for him. Of course, this race, it is being held at in a morning session, so it is about 10 minutes to 8 in the morning in Sim. Lovely, partly cloudy day, 28 degrees track temperature for them, so definitely they'll be loving this, because the tyres will be not getting that getting as hot as they would be, and giving them less grip, of course. Here's the battle for 8th in Pro-Am then. You've got Van der Ness, you've got Mike Horder, you've got Paul Webster together. Of course, Webster with that spin, nice 360 no-scope that was assisted. He's at the back of this pack. He'll be wanting to move forward because, of course, Paul Webster, who leads that Pro-Am Championship by just 3 points.
That's nothing.
So these two, Horder trying to carry on out of turn number 1, stays ahead of Van der Ness right now. Van der Ness is just keeping himself going in a nice position. This is all 19th, 20th, 21st and 22nd. Pete Harrod is closing up to the back of these. So he's in 22nd place. It's 3 Pro-Ams and a Pro, all duking it out. Pole position. They've actually not got Ben Gregory that far behind either, so he could come into this particular race as they head into turn number 10 again. Try not to clip that curb too hard. It's pretty much a one-line corner is that through there, because it is such a fast but tight corner. And you're going uphill. This is a really tricky corner. In fact, this and the final corner are 2 really tricky corners, because you're going uphill, you're turning, you're braking at the same time. The cars just want to understeer around here, Lorenzo, and it's so difficult to get the power down on the exit of the corner, which is crucial.
Yeah, because the traction control will scream for it to kick in, as we see, I think, Paul trying to go on the inside right here and try to make that overtake work.
Webster, then that venerable Audi R8, trying to make it count, and Van der Ness backing out of it nice and early into the hairpin at turn number 1. Pete Harrod was coming charging in there. So Webster up a position then, up into 20th place for him, as they shoot around that left-hander. Long sweeping right-hander. Of course, this venue hosted many a series, many a championship. I mentioned earlier Super GT, you got Super Formula, remember the old days of Formula Nippon as well. You have, of course, World Endurance Championship has been here. You also had the Formula 1 World Championship decided at this very venue in 1976, with James Hunt winning by a single point over Niki Lauda in that unbelievable season, which of course was turned into a film, Rush. And if you've never seen that film and you're a motorsport fan, I really implore you to go and watch that film.
Yeah, what are you doing? Just get out of this broadcast after we're done here.
No.
After we're done.
Broadcast.
After the broadcast. I said after the broadcast, Paul. Mind my words. I'm minding my words over here. But yeah, it's kind of interesting that not only that, but Fuji has saw so many changes throughout the years, right? Back in the 60s, and also one other thing is it's not just a track, it's also a manufacturer track, which is a staple in Japanese tracks of sorts.
Yeah, of course. You think it's Honda, isn't it? That now is it Honda?
No, this is Toyota. This is Toyota.
Yeah, this is Toyota. Yeah, because Honda is Suzuka, aren't they?
And Motegi too.
Motegi as well. Yeah. So you look at that. I mean, what a venue this is for Toyota to be able to use as a test bench. You know, it's a fantastic venue. The other problem is, and I think drivers will find this when iRacing does eventually bring in rain, as down the inside, well, two cars go down the inside, and well, Andy Archer said, go on boys, you two can have that. Tom Brown and Alex Gall moving forward. Gall now just 5 places away from where he started, and as we go through, Paul Crawford's taken to pit road. He's decided that now's the time to pit and to get his pit stop done, and I do believe we may have lost Adam State in all of this. Yes, Adam State has decided that his race is done and he's retired from the races. Alex Gall moves up another place, up into 11th now. So that Porsche working its way through. The problem for him, Lorenzo, is that he's 24 seconds off of the race leader.
And catching 24 seconds in 1 hour is, put it mildly, it's going to be a hard, if not a near next to impossible task, unless something happens to Jack Sedgwick. And luckily, we're not a Road America to curse drivers out and have the Lorenzo Bonder curse in effect once again. It's going to be hard. But you know, I've been thinking about this, Paul. This is a track that is a little bit different than we normally run in the official series in iRacing, right? Because you usually use this chicane, turn number 10. Now you just flick it to the right. So it does make a little bit of a compromise in the car, doesn't it? It kind of can shift between a high downforce to a middle downforce. So how you prepare a car, especially with this new BOP and the WGDC BOP as well, right? An interesting track to try to find that right compromise.
Brian Sutton deciding that now's the time for him to head on to pit road for the Penguin RC simulation team. So he'll be getting his first pit stop done. None of your front runners have headed onto pit road yet. We were expecting them in around about 6 minutes time here, Lorenzo. So this is where you've got to hope that you've done your fuel calculations correctly. Okay, you've got 2 pit stops. You can splash and dash in that final pit stop, but really, you want to be making sure you get your calculation right on both pit stops, especially this one, to make that last pit stop as short as possible.
And try to make it as worth as possible for a possible over or undercut, depending on circumstances. And who's spinning around? Nice catch.
That was one of those DCWR cars once again. And holds on to it. So again, that BMW for DCW Racing, Paul Crawford, they're really struggling with that car. They must have gone really aggressive with their setup, and it's just struggling through that long radius right-hander at turns 4 and 5. They now go uphill. I do love racing this track. It is a fantastic venue to drive around and race at, but it is a real challenge, and that's what Crawford is finding right there.
And not only that, but this track also falls within the traditional Japanese style of racing, right? And in every single track, it is a staple of sorts. We see that in Suzuka. I think I saw a little bit of a patch of smoke or something like that right at the back, maybe at the hairpin, but it does fall underneath the staples of it kills the tires. The rubber within Japan is so abrasive that it kills the tires. We see that in Suzuka, we see that in Yokoyama. So it's a unique track, of course, despite the long straights and the sweeping bends. But it's another tire killer track.
Got a yellow flag out there for Jim Whitehouse, but it's now gone. So he must have got back going again. So. Issues for the Century Sim Racing driver, the man from South Africa, the Springbok himself, and a very proud South African. Oh, again! That's Davidson running wide, and Fletcher just not able to take advantage of that. But we've seen that a number of times from Alex Davidson. He's really struggling with that turn number 10.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the car's set up to be a lower downforce, and whenever you try to flick it in, the car is just giving you massive understeer, and you kind of have to counter that with some counter rotation on the acceleration. But here comes Mark Fletcher, is going to push the back of Alex Davidson here, Paul. I think he's going for a move this time around. Yeah, he's already indicating, I'm not waiting this time anymore. I'm going for that move.
Davidson, he's just fallen back, hasn't he, from the front three. He's not been on the pace that we're used to seeing of him. Now, is that him just working to a fuel number maybe, but losing a bit more time than you expect, or has he just not got the race pace here today?
I'm thinking he's struggling because he kind of brought Mark Fletcher along with him, and it's now Fletcher's into the pit lane. Now we're looking at Michael Grain coming into the pit lane, so they are gonna have to come soon. But looking at Critchley and Danswell lap, they were faster than both of them.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right there. 34.1 last lap for Ethan Critchley. I mean, Ethan Critchley, let's not, count him out. He's a Pro-Am driver. He's won a race overall. He's in 6th place right now. In fact, he performed so well that he started off as an AM, and the admins decided, no, you're not an AM, you're a Pro-Am now. But he's matching the pace of Jack Sedgwick at the front of the field. So Critchley, for Century Sim Esports, is doing a fantastic job in that 6th place as we're on board with Dadswell behind Critchley. There he is. He's doing a great job in the Pro-Am Championship here.
Yeah, and not only that, he's keeping up and being slightly faster than a guy like Davidson. So it's a guy that won races, so shows up how much of a growth the driver is for Ethan Critchley right there. And he's also keeping a pro driver in Dagsball at bay. So he's doing a phenomenal job with that car. That BMW looked very well set up for the number 97.
Ethan Critchley, of course, from a competitive family. Of course, his father, former International Rugby League player, Jason Critchley, who I saw competing in the 2000 Rugby League World Cup. And, so there's obviously competitiveness in the family there and in the genes. And Ethan really is showing that he means business. He's only young, and he's doing a fantastic job of it in this season. He's been a great addition to this championship. It must be said, not everything has gone perfectly his way. You're always going to have little mistakes, but certainly he has impressed this season. And that is Paul Webster, the second time that he's facing the wrong way on the track. This is at turn number 1. Is he going to get it going again? He is. But I have a funny feeling that he was helped rather than doing that himself.
Yeah, and I think I agree 100% with you here, Paul, and I really want to look at the replay. Car looks slightly unstable for him to go into turn number 3 and kind of miss it, so looking forward to see what we're going to have in store right here. Oh, God.
It was that BMW, the Boosted Virage BMW. I didn't catch which number that was, unfortunately. But yeah, Paul Webster absolutely called it right there. Assisted around the corner, just that he went around more than he wanted to in that one. But he keeps going, but that has dropped him down to 22nd now in this race. He was having to do a bit of a recovery drive after that incident earlier on at the hairpin at 6. Andy Archer's the latest one onto pit road as we're reaching the hour remaining portion of this race. So we're coming up to the end of the first 45 minutes, and pit stops are starting to happen. Andy Shield for 3M, he's onto pit road as well. So now we're going to be looking our attention up the leaderboard to see when does Jack Sedgwick blink in that Ferrari.
Yeah, but I think he has to blink fast because Mark Farland is catching up, Armstrong is catching up, so they're being slightly faster than him. It's by the slightest margin, but Jack, I think this is the first lap within the last 3 or 4 that Jack has been able to put a 33, whereas Mark Farland and Armstrong were constantly within the 33s, like 33.9, 33.8, so it's like the next driver has that pace, but I don't know if it is strategy related or something like that. So let's see what the next pit stop will have in store.
Well, we can see because Jack Sedgwick is onto pit road right now. He's decided that now is the time to go and make his pit stop. Alex Davidson, Ethan Critchley, they're onto pit road as well. As here we go, there's your race leader then onto pit road as Paul Webster just leaving pit road at the bottom of shot. But yeah, Sedgwick, he has led pretty much from the get-go after a good launch from a standing start. We're not used to seeing standing starts here in the World GT Championship, so obviously one admin somewhere has pressed the wrong button, but nevertheless, we've been getting an intriguing race as we've got a veritable pit party going on right now. Sedgwick, Davidson, Critchley, Brown, Watson, Adriansons, Osborne,
look at Jack.
Simner, Finch, Hutchinson, Horder, Gregory, all on pit road.
In Jack's car, Jack is up, so something, is he going for a 1-2 tire strategy? And I think I also see someone else going for the 2 tire strategy maybe.
Yeah, tyres are going to be a big thing, I think, because Adrianson's only takes 14 seconds fuel only. Oh, you got to be careful on pit exit there, and Sedgwick just sneaks out in front of a couple of drivers into turn number 1. And well, the 56 of Tom Brown trying to keep with Adam Watson there. So we've got a couple of drivers, Alex Davidson, Jack Sedgwick, Michael Gray, Ethan Critchley have all taken tyres. In fact, no, I don't think Gray has. They've taken tyres of those 3, whereas others, like Edrington's, Watson, Brown, they're not taking tyres. They've only taken a short pit stop as the rest of them now onto pit road. McFarlane and Armstrong, Fletcher, Dadswell. I would expect to see Alex Gall carry on just that little bit longer in that Porsche.
Nope.
No, he's onto pit road as well.
I wouldn't be surprised because the problem is, Paul, he kind of raced all by himself, you know, after he made those moves and he had a considerable gap, I think, to the next car. I would say right about 5 seconds or something like that. So it's kind of hard for you to save fuel within those margins. So not surprised to see the Murat and the C-Stars into the pit lane.
So we're waiting patiently to see what people do pit stop wise. Well, there goes up onto the jacks. So yeah, so we've got a mixture of decisions being made here. Ross McFarlane is taking tyres. Look at that, the 2 Altitude Esports cars coming out neck and neck out of pit road. That's Dadswell and Fletcher, and they've got to be careful because there's Sedgwick behind. They've got the Indy Autosports car there alongside them as well, keeping out of harm's way. So Fletcher and Dadswell able to jump Sedgwick, but Sedgwick does have fresher tyres on his car compared to the 2 Altitude Esports cars. So this is going to be an intriguing race. This one? Strategy is going to play a huge part in this one, Lorenzo.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I really want to see those who are trying to go for the long haul and at the end of 1 hour and 45 minutes here, if they're going to go for no tires, or if they're leaving to the last pit stop to try to cut back the time to go for a lighter pit stop, you know, for try to have a lighter load and then try to combine that with the tires. So it's going to be an interesting end if you're like within the top 10, you're battling for top 5 positions as Jack Sedgwick just goes into the inside and cuts one more driver.
Yeah, that's just lap traffic getting out of his way, and it's so difficult when you are that lap traffic because you're trying not to hold up those drivers, but you're also trying to race your own race as well. So it's a really difficult balancing act that you've got to do to be able to facilitate that lap traffic. Oh, Brian Sohn takes to the curbs, and there's contact from behind from one of them. Pure Sims Esports cars. Now that, I believe, was Davidson. I don't think there was a lot that Davidson could do about that, to be fair.
Yeah, I think so as well. I really want to look at the replay because from what it looks, it was real close and the contact was just more like accidental. So just cut the tail end of it. Oh.
And that's what happens. Well, this is another reason why I don't like sausage curbs. Because if you hit the sausage curb wrong, it launches cars.
And I think we've seen time and time again that these sausage curbs, especially for open wheelers, is just like, this is likely the worst thing this year alone. we saw why sausage curbs should, in my opinion, should be forbidden in these kind of tracks, you know.
Well, I think everyone who watches World GT knows my opinion on sausage curbs, knows Peter Mackay's opinions on sausage curbs. Meanwhile, forget about sausages. It's all about BMW versus Ferrari. And right now, it is Jack Sedgwick trying to get past Tom Dadswell. Older tyres versus fresh tyres, so Sedgwick is going to have a grip advantage here. And you can see that Ferrari is just going exactly where Sedgwick wants it to go. Dadswell was maybe just not quite getting the same amount of purchase out of his Pirellis. As they go down the pit straight here. Sedgwick, that power of that BMW, it's got some grunt, hasn't it? And that Ferrari struggling in the slipstream to be able to get alongside, but now he does. And I think that was facilitated by Dadswell.
I think the Dadswell playing the smart game over here, trying to follow the best he can, Jack, and see if he can actually keep up with him. Of course, tire strategies, you were right on the point with this. So if Dadswell can keep up, let's just say a lap or two with Jack Sedgwick within his draft, that would do wonders for him on the long run. And maybe in the final pit stop, try to cut back on maybe Mark Fletcher and Adam Watson, try to battle for the top 3 position. As
they work through the hairpin once again. So Sedgwick, you can tell, he's just got that bit more grip and he's able to pull away. And we've seen this at play in this series before, how the different strategies of tyres or no tyres really can be the difference between a race win and not. Speaking of no tyres, your race leader right now after the first pit stop cycle is genuinely Jensen Adriansens. He's doing a fantastic job in that Indy Autosport red car, although that's not Jensen that we're seeing right there. Well, that's not an Indy Autosport livery, so I don't know what's happened there with Jensen's car, but he is definitely your race leader. Pro-Am, of course, is Jensen. And Matt Fletcher, second place for Altitude Esports, with Jack Sedgwick now third, as Ed May allowing your race leader, well, trying to allow the race leader past him, but the outside line gets the better run out of the corner. So Adrian is, of course, race leader overall and in Pro-Am as well, with Tom Brown, 5th place for Tom in Pro-Am. Really mixed up are these standings because of the different pit cycles and the different pit strategies at play here. Your top AM driver, by the way, just to point this out, is Jack Osborne. He's fallen back to 17th, but again, he's one of those drivers who took tyres at his pit stop, and so therefore he is just working his way through, and he'll be looking to try and make up some places in that strategy. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here on today's broadcast on the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M. And of course, if you do want to get yourself some sim gloves, and do head over to the 3M website. The Sim 21 gloves do give you some good grip. You've got touch points on the ends of the gloves, on the end of the fingers, so you can use your whatever device, tablet device or mobile phone whilst wearing them, and they give you a good firm grip of the steering wheel as well. So make sure you check out our series sponsors for that and various other products, including, if you are a real world racer, be either in karting or in full tin top or open wheel racing, and they do provide gloves, overalls and boots as well that all meet FIA spec, so do make sure you check them out here online on their website, and I'm sure they'll certainly look favourably to you if you do mention that you found them through the World GT Championship. But on track right now, there's the Audi. That's Adam Watson, who's working his way around. Now, Watson, of course, did not take tyres, just took a short splash and dash. So he's decided, Lorenzo, that this is the point where he's playing the alternative strategy going a short, sharp stint right now, trying to take advantage of a lighter car compared to Ross McFarlane, who took fuel and tyres, who's right behind him. It's difficult to see how these strategies will pan out until we get those final pit stops done.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. I think you're only going to know that. I wouldn't say right after the pits. I would say right about the final 3 laps. You know, how the proximity between the drivers. But anyway, I still think there is a little bit of the edge for the Audi and maybe on the long run for the BMW in terms of the tire consumption in comparison to the Mercedes. The Mercedes kind of like historically in iRacing haven't been the best cars. We see a car spun around. Is that Martin de Jong? Yeah, unfortunately another incident for Martin. We already saw one with him earlier in the race, right, Paul? And looks like this one might have been assisted again.
I don't know. That was an interesting one because that happened at the hairpin. So potentially assisted or potentially just carrying a bit too much speed into the corner. Here's Ross McFarlane, as I say, 3-time champion of this series, and he's done it on the 3-peat as well, going for a 4th in a row. That Mercedes sounds menacing as we go through, and Adam Watson in front and be hoping to keep this pace up. I can actually see 5-lap average pace on my timing screen. I have that little bit of additional functionality. Jensen Adrianson's at the front. His 5-lap average is a 34.9. Mark Fletcher is a 34.1. Jack Sedgwick is a 34.2. In fact, Sedgwick is nearly onto the back of Fletcher. These two, Watson a 34.8, McFarlane a 33.9 average. So McFarlane does have the pace over Watson here. It's just catching is one thing, getting past is quite another.
Yeah, but he has a straight right here, and this is nearly a full mile of straight, so he can try to go in and go for the dive on turn number 1. That's what looks like Ross is doing already, covering on the inside for the Audi. So the Audi being slightly defensive here.
Yeah, Watson doesn't want to give this one up. McFarlane will be getting frustrated by that, but you can carry the speed around the outside. You get the better run out of the corner, and that gives you the inside line for the next turn, and that's exactly what McFarlane has got there. Will they give each other room? Watson's now got the inside line, and Watson stays ahead. This is great racing, great respectful racing. Of course, last time out at Daytona, we saw Watson win at Daytona with that beautiful race between him and Jack Sedgwick. And well, Watson wants to get on, but McFarlane's not happy. I can understand his frustration, but this is a race for position. Watson doesn't have to just roll over and let you pass here, Ross. You've got to make it count.
Yeah, you're not going to have easy spots right here, so you're going to have to find a way to try to sort it out, either into the final sector over here, but I think again, the best overtaking opportunity will be turn number 1. But the problem, I think, for McFarlane was kind of a little bit far back, despite being, you know, I would say 5/10 of a second going into the draft. But look at Farland's line on the inside, already compromised fully Watson.
Yeah, Watson, I mean, he's going to be sending a telegram to that apex there. He was nowhere near it, and this is where McFarlane, with the grunt of the Mercedes, down the start and finish straight, used the slipstream. He's using the side draft as well, as they're absolutely neck and neck. They're not giving each other an inch of room here. Oh, they're playing chicken with each other down into the hairpin, and it's Watson has to cede that position to Ross McFarlane. McFarlane's got the fresher rubber, the fresher tyres, and Watson just could not compete with that.
Yeah, he tried to compete, but the grip just was too much in favor for the Mercedes. And just trying to go on the inside, clipping the curb, being on the inside, just kind of made Watson's car slightly unstable, lost a few tenths of a second, bringing Alex Davidson closer and closer and closer towards that P number 7 that the 99 actually currently holds.
So, mark that up as another position gain for Ross McFarlane after his pit stops, but he won't be happy with that because that's taken him a little bit of a time to get past, and that lost him crucial time on Jack Sedgwick. He's 5 seconds back from Jack, Now, Jack himself has been staying around about the same amount of time, 1.8 seconds between him and Mark Fletcher. So Fletcher's doing a good job right now in that BMW. And Sedgwick, he's got to be patient here. Now, Fletcher didn't take tyres, just took fuel only at his pit stop. So Fletcher is on older tyres, but they're both going for the same sort of pit cycle in terms of fuel that they're taking on board. So this is going to be an interesting duel between BMW and Ferrari, and that Ferrari just doesn't seem to quite have that edge at the moment. The 5 lap average, I can tell you, there's 1/10 of a second difference between Fletcher and Sedgwick in the favour of Mark Fletcher.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see that. I think it was just have to be the fact that Sedgwick just had a blistering start of a race and kind of took advantage of the other drivers battling for positions. Then again, it's Jack, right? Paul, he can figure out a way to get out of the hole and then try to be slightly superior. The Ferrari, I think, the only thing he's trying to maybe overdrive the car. As we see, there's a battle between Archer and Hutch. He's going to go for P13. So really interesting that going on as well, and looks like clean driving between both of them.
Yeah, so Andy Archer ahead of Mark Hutchinson then, and that's for Pro-Am positions, don't forget. Ben Gregory's onto pit road again already, so he's having his second pit stop now. He only lasted 9 laps on that stint, so he'll be going for a full fuel load now to get him to the end of the race. As we have lost a number of drivers. We've lost Jack Belton from this race, Matthias Drozda, Michael Evdoka, David Nichols, Michael Blake, Adam State, the latest one, Andy Scheel, all out of this race as Tom Brown now comes onto pit road. So those drivers who took the shorter splash and dash at the first pit stop are now starting to make their final pit stop of the race. Remember, 2 mandatory pit stops. That means that you have to come down onto pit road twice and you have to get a service, either fuel and tyres or just fuel. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah. If you're doing this kind of run, Paul, I know you're racing WTCS, but WTCS is slightly different by a whole margin in comparison to the GT3 cars. But if you have to race a GT3 in a race like this, where you have this kind of a different strategies you can actually uphold in a track like this, what would be your approach going to a race? Let's just say you're fighting for top 15 and it's close between one another.
See, the thing is, for me, first of all, I was never near top 15 pace in GT3s in this series. I last raced in this series in Season 5 when my team won the Pro-Am Teams Championship, just to throw that one out there. But yes, it's a real challenge as this type of race, because it's a thinking person's race. The sprint races, it's all very much about get there, get the move done as quickly as you can, gain as many places as you possibly can. Whereas these races, you can gain those places through different strategies. Jensen Adriansons, as we see, onto pit road right now for his second pit stop after 11 laps on that stint. So he'll be going for fuel only and taking it to the end with that one. But really, for me personally, the way I always like to do it was I always like to have your long pit stop to start with, so that it gives you the chance, if you are wearing the tyres out more than you were anticipating, it gives you the chance to change tyres at that first pit stop and get advantage of that fresh rubber. The second pit stop, you don't usually take the tyres at that one, because you're not getting as long a time with those fresh rubber, and to take advantage of that fresher rubber for as long. So yeah, it's interesting to see how the tactics work out. We'll have to wait and see. Jensen Adriansons, I can tell you, with his pit stop, did take tyres as well. The Pro-Am driver is just leaving pit lane right now after doing fuel and tyres.
Yeah, and I'm wondering who's, like, in terms of McFarlane, Davidson, Watson, and that's and even Fletcher at this point, it will blink, in terms of, putting a lighter load in terms of fuel, and those who haven't put tires, will they commit to putting tires on this final pit stop? And we already see that, again, we mentioned that Fuji is one of those tracks that because of the long radius of corners and things like that, it does consume, especially going through 100-hour, which is turn number 4 and 5. That kills your tires immediately. Those left-hand tires, they're going to be screaming for grip. As the race is over here comes Armstrong.
Yeah, James Armstrong doing his best to try and move forward here on Ethan Critchley, onto the brakes, into the braking zone. Critchley trying to get the cut back, but James very smartly went and parked that car on the apex, did not give Critchley the opportunity to get the cut under there at turn number 1. So Armstrong able to get ahead in that Brabham Esports car, but the Century Sim Esports driver of Ethan Critchley, he will not give this one up without a fight, that is for sure, as Alex Davidson has been on pit road for his second pit stop, and he is back out onto track and is going at this one. So that's one of your championship contenders in Pro, trying to see what that pit stop cycle does for him. In Pro-Am, in terms of championship right now, Mark Hutchinson is doing the best out of that one. He's currently 4th place in Pro-Am, 11th place overall. Paul Webster 16th after his couple of assisted spins in this one. And remember, there was only 3 points separating the two of those coming into this round. And Chris Van der Ness as well, he was looking for a good round, but it's not happening for him so far here today. Jesse Payne Wilkins. Now, where's Jesse? Because that is your AM championship leader. Currently 24th right now. Us as a second pit stop. Tim Perry is on to pit road for a 3rd pit stop. So he's had to come down the lane a couple of times. And in fact, I do believe that that's a drive-through penalty. And I think that is possibly... Oh, no, it isn't. No, he's taking a pit stop here. But I can tell you he has had a drive-through penalty in this race, because he's the first driver to reach 24 incident points in this one.
Ooh. And this is a race where you cannot afford to drop points.
I mean, fortunately, this championship, you do have 2 drop scores, but still, you want your drop score to be as good as possible for you, so that you can have the best opportunity in the championship when it comes to the end. Of course, the final round of this championship, for anyone who's new to the series, welcome along. Hope you've been enjoying this one here today on RaceSpotTV. But this championship, for the final round of the championship, which of course will be at the start of November at the Nürburgring for 3 sprint races, those final 3 races do not count towards drop scores. So we know who the champion is at the end of the night, and it's all decided in that. It's almost like a grand final, isn't it? It's almost like a cup final in football, where it's all on the line in that final round, and it's proved it time and again in this series. Whenever we've been covering it, Lorenzo, it just keeps on delivering, does that final round.
Yeah, because it is crazy races, you know, it's always a scramble for the points, and you try to do the mathematics and everything. This is what I like about this series, you know, and I've been wanting to commentate this for a while, because the gap has been so close consistently throughout the championship that you don't have anything decided in any of the championships. Maybe Pro more than the other, Pro-Am and AM itself, where the gap have been a little bit more sparse in terms of points and favoring some drivers more than others. But regardless, it's always good racing when it comes to the final race. It does resemble a little bit my Football Manager the last 2 seasons.
Oh, yeah, let's not talk about my last attempt at playing Football Manager. Anyway, as we go along, as we carry on looking at this, this is the closest fight on there on track between James Armstrong and Ethan Critchley. Of course, Critchley losing that position just a couple of laps ago to James. And James, of course, race winner in the championship. 1 win to his name. He was delighted by it, so delighted that his internet cut out on the second race, so he couldn't finish that one. That's how it sometimes goes for people in this series, as Adam Watson now onto pit road for his second pit stop with about 34 minutes remaining in this one. So the Altitude Esports driver deciding that now's the time to get his second pit stop.
And still nobody in the front still flinching, right? And Sedgwick still having a lot of trouble to catch up. Meanwhile, Watson having a solid race and kind of like grasping within the top 5, which is cool to see. But only now that Jack is actually getting within the slipstream range after, you know, battling so much to try to get closer and getting a minor edge of Mark Fletcher right now.
Yeah, Fletcher's got a 1.1 second lead over Jack Sedgwick, and they've been lapping pretty much even in terms of their the lap times. Fletcher, of course, did not take tyres on that last pit stop, whereas Sedgwick did. Is that a question of Sedgwick sort of just bringing the tyres in and not pushing them from the start? As Alex Gall, now look at this, Alex in that Porsche, he's been quick in that car. It's not always been the best in terms of top speed, but he's certainly being quick in that car. Finished second in the opening round of the championship at Barcelona when he played a blinder in terms of the strategy with his frugal car. Down the pit straight he goes. And this is where the BMW now just shows its little bit of pace. Of course, Critchley with the slipstream from James Armstrong, as Dadswell and McFarlane have switched places. And look at that, the Porsche back into the draft. But look at that then, McFarlane has got himself ahead of Dadswell. It's taken him a while to get there, Lorenzo, but he's finally, what is it, 6.5 seconds behind Sedgwick.
But this is the problem. You're 6.5 seconds behind Sedgwick on a don't see very similar strategy, right, for McFarlane, even though his pit stop was kind of long. You know, it was the longest of all those who actually took tires right here. So even though the pure sims look like he has speed and on the late stages, it's not enough to try to reach Jack. So it needs something extra. We need to see that something extra from Ross McFarlane to contend for top positions.
Fletcher now is actually coming under pressure from Sedgwick, it must be said, because that gap is now below 1 second. So I think Fletcher's tyres are just starting to show their age here, and that track is just getting hotter and hotter here. It's now 31 degrees. It was 27 degrees about midway through the first half of the race. So that track is getting hotter out there. The Japanese asphalt, of course, notorious for not giving its grip to you, and that can really just shred your tyres. And as you mentioned, Lorenzo, there's a lot of right-handers at this track, and there's also a couple of them that are quite sort of long sweeping corners at that as well. But as they go through, once again, so Fletcher just trying his best to hold on to the lead as they go through. But Sedgwick, I don't think that Sedgwick is going to try anything silly. I think he's going to just bide his time. I think he realises that he has that edge over Fletcher, but he doesn't want to hang around too long behind him. He doesn't want Fletcher holding him up here, because McFarlane, by him getting past Dadswell, has been released. And I'm just having a look at my car tracker here that I've got on my map. There's only one lap car between Sedgwick and McFarlane. So you know, Sedgwick, he'll want to make a move and make it quicker.
Yeah, he doesn't really want to lose time, because each and every lap that maybe Mark fights is like maybe a tenth of a second or even half a second tops that McFarlane would gain on the delta if he keeps up relatively clean throughout his lap. So let's see what Sedgwick does into turn number 1 here.
Well, he pulls out from the slipstream, and Mark Fletcher decides that that's not worth fighting as he goes into turn number 1. So Fletcher loses that position. Sedgwick back to the front of the field where he was before the first pit stop cycle as they go through turn number 3, heading through that 100R. Really tricky corner is this one. It tightens up towards the end there. You've got to get it all the way over to the right hand side to open up this left-hander at the hairpin. It's a fantastic track. It really is one that you do want to get your hands on, and it's one that you can really wring the best out of a car and test all aspects of a car as well. Fletcher though, he's happy in the slipstream right now. He seems to be comfortable there, but his older tyres, I feel, will be causing him to lose grip through this sector of the track.
Yeah, because I think it favors more of a nimble track, a nimble car, which is in the Ferrari, than a heavy car, which is more like a proper Grand Tourer than in the M4. Mark Fletcher's doing a fantastic job, trying to follow the same lines as Jack Sedgwick is actually making, and BMW does have a little bit of an edge going to the downforce, and here comes both cars into the pit lane. No, Mark Fletcher doesn't flinch. He actually gets stay for one more lap.
Yeah, Fletcher deciding to try and get the most slipstream that he possibly could from Sedgwick, but this is Sedgwick now, his second pit stop. McFarlane stays out another lap, so Sedgwick, he did pit 1 lap sooner than the others at the front of the field, so this is his second pit stop. This is going to be crucial, and it's so easy to get yourself a speeding penalty here coming onto pit road, because you're coming from such a high speed. But there's Sedgwick into his pit stall now. We will not see it go up onto its jacks. It'll just be fuel only, about 10 seconds or so. He waits patiently. Oh, it's a little bit longer, in fact. Is this one? It really is longer, is the fuel. Still going in, 20 seconds is the fuel stop. You compare that to Alex Davidson, who only took 10 seconds of fuel in his pit stop. But Sedgwick does come out right into the thick of some traffic. That won't help him on his outlap.
I'm wondering if Davidson went for a full fill and try to stretch out the stint in a way that makes you think that whenever he's actually going to the pit lane, you just have to refill the car to try to be full within the 70% of the car capacity, just try to carry towards the end at the race, which would make a little bit more sense, to be very honest with you, Paul. But regardless, the job that, again, he's been doing on the field has been very interesting, and I can't wait to see when they both come to the pit lane how close it will be on the timer and how much fuel they will have to put into their cars.
Well, you've got Fletcher, you've got McFarlane, you've got Dadswell, Armstrong, Gall, Critchley and Gray all in front of Jack Sedgwick right now in terms of position, but Sedgwick has got a few back markers to try and work his way past, which is not helping him here. I believe that's Adam Hedgecock that he's working his way past. Careful of those sausage curbs. They do carry on. Fletcher and everyone at the front did carry on and have got another lap under their belt, so they're going a little bit longer than Sedgwick. They're obviously looking to, I mean, we've seen cars in these endurance races make their final pit stop with about 10 minutes to go in the past, so we're going to be a little while before we do get that final running order. Mike Horder onto pit road, he's making his pit stop. There's Alex Davidson trying to work his way through. He's got one of the Evo SR cars in front of him, which so it's Hutchinson there in 11th place, Alex Davidson behind in 12th. That's a Pro-Am and a Pro. Those of you keeping up to date, your Pro drivers have got the green numbers in our timing tower, orange numbers for the Pro-Ams and blue for the AMs. Down the inside though, because Davidson, but Hutchinson can hang it out around the outside if he can. That'll give him the inside for this corner. That'll give him the inside for turn number 10 as well. It's going to be a compromised line though for Hutchinson. It's both Fletcher and Dadswell come onto pit road. Runs wide does Hutchinson. And that's allowed Alex Davidson through. But crucially now, Matt Fletcher onto pit road for his final pit stop.
Yeah, just looking at how long is going to be that pit stop for Mark Fletcher, going over 10 seconds. the key is right here to be the fastest, but no, it looks like to be is gonna be. Is it gonna be the same time as actually Cedric's gonna do 20 seconds?
Cedric did 20 seconds. That's 21.4 for Fletcher. So that's going to mean that Cedric should come out ahead of Fletcher, and he does. It's on the timing tower. You can see, oh, there's a smoke coming across from pit roads. There's somebody with a blown engine down pit lane. But yeah, so that's Cedric ahead of Fletcher. That's crucial for Cedric, I do feel, for him to come out ahead of Fletcher at this final pit stop. And that gets him up into 6th place. All the drivers in front of him do owe us a pit stop, including your race leader right now, Ross McFarlane. But this is an intriguing fight right now. Hutchinson is not giving this one up without a fight, and Davidson trying to go around the outside. Can he do it? No, he can't. And there's a car just in the middle of the road there. I think that's Brian's son. It is Brian's son. I did catch that Penguin RC simulation car. Oh, that was a heart-in-mouth moment for us. I don't think so much for the drivers behind the wheel, as Hutchinson again gets turn 10 wrong. That's going to give Davidson the inside once again, and that's going to allow Davidson to get past once again.
Hold up, I need to catch my breath. And I was slightly scared. I jumped out of my seat for a little bit right here when I saw Brian's son going around the hairpin and be stationary right there. But looking at turn number 1 on the previous lap, I wonder what happened to Davidson to fumble turn number 1 so badly and give the room again to Mark Hutchinson to make that overtake.
We'll have to wait and see. Can tell you right now, between Cedric and McFarlane, there's 42.5 seconds between your race leader and Jack Cedric. So Ross McFarlane needs to try, do everything he can to come down pit road, get his service done, and get out in that time to have any hope of getting a race win here. Otherwise, Jack Cedric, you feel, has got the perfect opportunity, unless of course he has a mistake, unless he gets involved with a bit of traffic. You never know in this series. Stranger things have happened. Well, Crawford and Martin de Jong onto pit road for their final pit stops. There's Hutchinson running wide. So Davidson is finally broken clear of Mark Hutchinson, and Hutchinson's now going to be careful because Jack Osborne's behind, and he'll potentially put a little bit of pressure on, and he is dragging along a bit of lap traffic as well, is Osborne. So Hutchinson, it's not a perfect day for him, for the Pro-Am driver. He's not doing too bad, although he does owe us a final pit stop here. But 21 minutes remaining here, Lorenzo. Ross McFarlane is on 23rd lap of his stint right now. I would think that he's got maybe another 6-7 minutes left in him.
Something like it, I would say maybe 5 minutes left in him, to say the very least, and then coming to the pit lane. I would give him, I would slide advantage. That would be, what, 14-second pit stop or a 15-second pit stop for McFarlane. The problem is, how much of a delta would Sedgwick be able to cut back whenever he's actually on track in comparison to the pure Sims driver? That is going to be interesting.
Well, here's an interesting duel on track right now. It's the Brabham Esports driver James Armstrong versus the Maradness Satellite E-Stars driver of Alex Gall. Gall in that Porsche, Armstrong in that BMW. That Porsche, it's so nimble through the twisty stuff. That's where it really does come into play. But down the straight is where it maybe struggles a little bit. Now, Gall, he did not take tyres on his pit stop, whereas Armstrong did. But Gall makes the move down the inside, up into second place. But Armstrong, I don't think he'll be giving that one up for a while yet. But he's thinking possible a long game here.
Yeah, but we got to give props to Gall, right? At the end of the day, you know, coming back from a self-inflicted mistake, going to turn number 1 in the first lap of the race. Then using his Porsche and climbing all the positions back to within top 5. It has to be lauded for the Moradness eSARS driver, you know, that resilience, never giving up, and using the strength of the Porsche with a new increased downforce in the new season VOP to his advantage.
Yeah, certainly liking coming around this track, and as I say, the only downside is just that little bit of top speed that it maybe lacks, but it certainly makes up for it in the twisty stuff, does that car. And look at him, he's pulling away from James Armstrong, and like I say, remember Armstrong, he took tyres on his pit stop, whereas Gall did not. So that just shows you the strength of that Porsche, with an Alex Gall behind the wheel, it must be said. He's a very talented driver, and that's why the Moradness Satellite eStars team have him on board. But James Armstrong, he's no slouch either. Of course, as I say, race winner this season. Down the start and finish straight they go again. So we've got 18.5 minutes remaining here in this round number 7 of the season 12 of the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M here on RaceSpotTV. Paul Smith and Lorenzo Bonda behind the microphones. Behind the scenes for us here today is Hugo Luis on production. So Michael Gray, he's onto pit road from 5th place. So that's now his final pit stop underway. So that full tilt V Motorsport driver getting his final service, and then he'll get away with a bit of a tank of fuel. Not too long, and he'll be away. So there you go, 14.8 seconds. So with 17.5 minutes remaining, those pit stop times are coming down now, Lorenzo. And I'm just looking to see what his cone to cone time is. I'll give you that in a second. 46 seconds cone to cone for Michael Gray. I'm thinking about that for your race leader, because Ross McFarlane has got a 42.5 second lead over Jack Sedgwick. So I don't think he's got enough of a gap as running wide there, getting out the way. I believe that's Jared Corona getting out of the way of his teammate. But yeah, Ross McFarlane just doesn't have enough of a gap, does he, at the front of your field?
No, he doesn't, and that's all props to Sedgwick at the end of the day to be able to maintain that gap honest, and no slouch from McFarlane, you know, trying to push his car to the very best, but at the end of the day, just I've been able to match the pace that Sedgwick has been putting at the start of the race, and showing that Ferrari has pace on tracks like this. I'm slightly surprised to see the NX driver displaying a pace against the AMG and also the Porsche more specifically. Not saying the GT3 for the BMW is weak, but kind of like it's the odd man out in between those four.
So do carry on Alex Gall, then you're seeing there moving forward. Tom Dadswell has just gained a position, must be said, on Andy Archer. So Dadswell moving forward a place, but Andy Archer does owe us a second pit stop. So I think Archer was probably thinking that Dadswell is not his fight, and that he could maybe use him to his advantage to get a little bit of slipstream and help him out towards his final pit stop. But yeah, we're in that final quarter of an hour of the race. We're just patiently waiting here to see when people do come onto pit road for their final pit stop of this race. Another lap passes by for Ross McFarlane. He carries on. Paddy Faulkner comes onto pit road now for his second pit stop. And they're in 19th, so where will he come out? You're looking sort of in the mid-20s positions for him. Not been his day for DCW Racing. It's not really been DCW Racing Day, has it, Lorenzo? Much like it hasn't really been the Moradness Satellite eStars Day as well.
Yeah, because they kind of have been on the tail end of, you know, receipt of incidents, you know, either caused one or right in the middle of one. So they were involved in much attrition at the start of the race, just couldn't perform at their best. We see them, for example, Paddy is a good example, doing a really good race in North America, also having solid races, everyone inside Daytona. So just could not getting that car set up maybe right for a track like Fuji.
Andy Archer on pit road along with Mark Hutchinson, so two of your Pro-Am drivers now heading onto pit road for their final pit stop. There's more cars coming down the pit straight, getting a lap in the books. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Jack Sedgwick has yet to win a race this season in the World GT Championship, which is surprising for somebody of his ability, but you have to say that this series, especially at the front of the field, there's some highly competitive drivers in GT3 cars, and he's not had it easy, has he?
No, absolutely not. I think it has to come down to a few factors. First and foremost, that before we had the BOP, the new BOP, the Ferrari was basically one of the cars that was the hardest for you to set up and try to match with the drag. The AMG, more specifically, the Porsche was kind of like easier for you to try to navigate towards than the BMW than the BMW 2. So he kind of had that disadvantage coming first. But I think with this new season, where it's more regulated towards more the Porsche than the AMG and the BMW, so I think kind of it leveled out the field for the Ferrari to be able to be slightly more competitive. And also Jack just couldn't find himself in winning situations like this one, right? I think the fact that we had a standing start and Jack has plenty of experience with standing starts, you might have given him the edge on this one.
Now, it's worth pointing out, I've been keeping an eye on pit stop times. Andy Archer, cone to cone on pit road, was 43.9 seconds on his pit stop just on this last lap. Ross McFarlane currently has a 42.6 second lead over Jack Sedgwick. This race isn't over yet, because of course with each lap that you take, the less fuel that you're going to have to put into that car. So Ross McFarlane onto pit road right now. This is a key stage of this race. If he can get this stop absolutely perfect, he can have a chance of being competing with Jack Sedgwick for a potential race win here. Ethan Critchley onto pit road as well for his final pit stop, Lorenzo. But this is the crucial one.
Yeah, this is the one we've been waiting for. Let's see him coming to the stall, and he needs to make a perfect stop right here. No major drama now. The time is how long do you stay in the lane.
Well, Sedgwick is coming down pit straight right now. He's got a draft from a car in front of him as well. Ross McFarlane's away. He was in the stall for 9.9 seconds. He's out the pit road, and do you know what? He's going to come out in front of Jack Sedgwick. Incredible pit performance. How did we ever doubt Ross McFarlane? He's the king of endurance races in this World GT Championship for reasons, and that is it. But do not write off Jack Sedgwick yet. There's 11 and a half minutes remaining though. It's going to be tough for him.
Tough is an understatement. 3.5 seconds. 3.5 seconds, boy. I'm baffled. I thought this was going to be much closer, and I would need much closer, like 2 seconds, maybe 1.5 seconds coming down into the pit lane and make this really competitive for the final laps. I would say for the final 6-7 laps. But no, I was proven completely wrong. Pure Sims engineers, take a bow.
Take a bow, son, indeed, because that was brilliant strategy play once again from Pure Sims Esports. As I say, Ross McFarlane, when it comes to the endurance races here in the World GT Championship, he's the king of endurance for this series. He is tremendous when it comes to these races. As he goes down the pit straight once again. We have still got 2 cars in front of him though who have yet to pit. Alex Gall and James Armstrong. Those two are still close together. They're absolutely neck and neck between the two of them. So Armstrong hasn't let Gall get away from him here. Now, this could be a key little battle to watch towards the end of the race.
Yeah, just looking at the gaps right here, if they do something similar to what McFarlane was doing, because I do believe they're coming into the pit lane this lap and maybe the next one, it comes like 38 to 39 seconds if they do something similar to the aggressiveness on the lane that McFarlane has done. they come out right in between Fletcher and Dadswell, and that P3 opens up completely, and this is going to be a drag race to the end. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting end to this race. You do not want to go anywhere. Thank you for spending your Monday evening here with us on RaceSpotTV. Here comes Gal down the pit straight, and he is going towards pit road. James Armstrong now, is he just following him to get a bit of slipstream? No, they're both onto pit road. Careful of the pit lane speed limit. Attack that cone. James Armstrong, I do feel, actually just caught up just a tiny little bit on Gal as they headed onto pit road. So those two, it's going to be a race of the pit crews. And you've got to get it absolutely spot on, get it on the right marks, because otherwise you're gifting time to the other driver.
Yeah, how long you're staying, and you cannot miss the stall.
So there they are. They're both stopped. Gal is away. Here comes Ross McFarlane down the pit straight. They're not going to be fighting for the race lead. James Armstrong, I do believe, has jumped Alex Gal in the pit lane. Yes, he has! He's come out in front of him. There's lights flashing because Mark Fletcher then jumped Fletcher. So all of a sudden, it's James Armstrong third, Alex Gal fourth, and then Mark Fletcher fifth place. It's as close as that between the three of them for the final podium position here in this third endurance race of the season. But at the front, Ross McFarlane has got a 3.7 second lead over Jack Sedgwick. James Armstrong was there for Brabham Esports, third place over Alex Gal and Fletcher. Dadswell in sixth. Ethan Critchley, what a drive it's been for him today. He is in seventh place. He's the Pro-Am leader as well, ahead of Alex Davidson. Kevin Kittleman has got himself a drive-through penalty down in 36th. So he's only the second driver, actually, to get a drive-through penalty in this race. There is Chris Van Den Ness owing as a pit stop. He's the last driver to come down onto pit road as Van Den Ness. He was very frugal with his first run. He's showing it once again, but Armstrong, he is going to have it hard now, isn't he, Lorenzo? Because Alex Gal, we know, can make those moves.
Oh, he can make those moves most definitely, and it's like a matter of when he's going to make that move and where he's going to make that move on that problem meet for his BMW. And Armstrong's going to defend like a lion. This is kind of like going to be a repeat of what we saw with Davidson at Road America, right? In the feature race. But this time around, it's different cars. It's a different car. It's a different beast, and it's a different OP car if we're talking about normal BOP standards in the Porsche, and that car drags, man. And so it's going to be tricky for the BMW to defend all these remaining laps.
Worth pointing out, championship contender in Pro, Alex Davidson, is in 8th place in this race. It has not been a race to remember for Alex, and he certainly will have been wanting a better result. Ross McFarlane, with 6 minutes remaining, has got a nice healthy lead, and he's pulling away from Jack Sedgwick as well. So it looks like that Ross is really giving it some. As we've got a car spun around there. It's Martin de Jong. Unfortunately not for the first time in this race today. He's facing the wrong way, but he does get himself back up and running. But that does mean that he's in 24th place now in this race. But I think Jesse Payne-Wilkins, his teammate, did actually make a move and get past him through all of that. But at the front, still, it's Armstrong, Gal though looking to get another podium this season. As I say, he finished second place in the opening round of the championship, but Armstrong is getting a nice little bit of slipstream from Ben Gregory. And look ahead of them. Look at that, Jack Sedgwick.
Hi, Jack.
He's not that far ahead, is Jack.
It's 1.7 seconds to separate him. Armstrong trying to go for the dive on the inside and just cover on the inside of the 113. I'm just trying to look. Who's that on the 113? That is Ben Gregory, like you say, yeah. So just cleared out of the way, and now the problem goes for Mark Fletcher. There's a separation, and he's just gliding back. And Armstrong, remember when I said about a mid to late race pace? He has it, so he can come in strong and challenge Jack Sedgwick if it's such the case, because it is coming down consistently that time. Slowly, but it's coming down.
Yeah, he just needs bigger chunks though, doesn't he? He needs traffic to help him out here. And I can tell you that Jack Sedgwick is going to be coming up to Lars van Rijn to lap. But of course, every car that Jack Sedgwick comes up to lap, Armstrong and Gall have to get past as well. Now, does Gall see the big picture here? See that they are actually potentially looking at a second place here and think, I'll not fight James so much. Let's go after Sedgwick in front of us.
Well, great question. You have potentially 3 laps to go over here. 3 on the 3.5 laps left. So if you're gonna waste one more lap, that's all. That's the cushion you get. You have one more lap to analyze, see if the gap is gonna consistently come down, going to the first, second sector. And if it is something that you can work on, try to look over the big picture, then definitely work with. Otherwise, just go for the moves, because the least it can happen, you have Mark Fletcher contending for positions for the top 3.
Armstrong last lap caught the best part of 0.4 per second over Sedgwick. So this one isn't over yet, but you're absolutely right. They've only got about 2.5 laps remaining in this race here. It is McFarlane in front with Sedgwick second, Armstrong third, with Alex Gall being towed along with him. Your top Pro-Am, Ethan Critchley. Your next best Pro-Am is Tom Brown with Jensen Adrianson's in 10th place. So 3 Pro-Ams in the top 10. That's great to see here today. Jack Osborne, your top Am, he's in 15th place overall. Your next best Am, you've got to go all the way down to 23rd. Jesse Payne Wilkins and Paddy Faulkner are in 23rd and 24th. Places. So some good points for Jack Osborne, because with this series, even though the drivers are all separated out in terms of Pro-Am and Am, the position that you finish in is the points that you take to your championships. It's not like you've got individual points for each category. It is one set of points in the race. So you take the points from where you finish.
Yeah, and the gap now just over a second here. So look at Armstrong already covering turn number 1, but they know they're close, like they're grasping the air of Jack Sedgwick here, Paul. So now we're over a second, just like minimal gaps. So if they work one more lap and stay under that second, it's game on, man.
It could be game on indeed, and both Armstrong and Sedgwick, remember, did take tyres on the first pit stop. Is that BMW holding its tyres better, Lorenzo? That's my question to you.
Oh yeah, man. I know it kind of like, I know Ferrari kind of struggles whenever you try to go for a double stint, and especially in hot weather. So I know BMW on hot weather does perform a little bit better. But look at turn number 10. Does that back marker is going to take effect? No, not at all.
That was good work from the back marker there, to be fair. Getting out the way, doesn't want to get involved in this one. Andy Gilmore doing the sensible thing and saying, you know what, boys, good luck. You all sort yourselves out, but we're heading towards the start of the final lap for Ross McFarlane, because he's just come out of the last corner. He'll have 1 lap to go, because we have 1 minute remaining in this race. It is round number 7, the 3rd endurance round of the season here in this championship, in the World GT Championship. We're potentially going to fight for second place, but Sedgwick has been able to just gap out a little bit, has he, on that last lap? No, he hasn't. He lost 1/10 of a second, but that's not enough for Armstrong to be closing up by. Meanwhile, Ross McFarlane at the front of your field, he's got a nice 3.5 second gap over Jack Sedgwick. He's looking pretty right now at the front of your field, Lorenzo. And what a performance and what a strategy play from Ross McFarlane and Pure Sims Esports.
Had us completely fooled, right? We thought that Jack had the upper hand going into the final pit stop, but completely fooled us at the end of the day. Pure Sims engineers, again, take a bow and congratulate yourselves, because that was well earned, as Jack Osborne makes a move on Phil Harrod. Then it goes for one more spot. But anyway, what a day.
Well, he started on pole position, didn't have the best of launches after that standing start, which we didn't expect. Jack Sedgwick led early on in this race, and until that first pit stop phase, led at the front and had a nice comfortable gap. But Ross McFarlane has just been plugging away at this one, and he's once again going to be looking at another race win. It'll be race win number 5 of the season. It's the second endurance round that he's going to be a winner of. Ross McFarlane for Pure Sims Esports. This could be a crucial win for him in the championship, with his championship rival down in 8th. He'll be delighted. Across the line, Ross McFarlane is your race winner here. Jack Sedgwick does finish in 2nd place ahead of James Armstrong. Alex Gall finishes in 4th place. Looking back, here's Ethan Critchley. A Pro-Am win here for the Century Sim Esports driver. Good result for Ethan in his championship there in Pro-Am. Tom Brown will finish 2nd place in Pro-Am, with Jensen Adrianson's 3rd place in Pro-Am. Looking further back, Pete Harrod and Jack Osborne. They're both in Century Sim Racing cars. And Jack Osborne for Century Sim Racing. A little bit of connection problems. He'll be hoping that he can make it to the checkered flag here. But this is going to be an AM win. 16th place overall. The next best AM was a lap down on your race leader, Jesse Payne Wilkins, in 23rd. Jesse's already finished this race here, so Jack is guaranteed at least a 19th place finish. It's going to be better than that, because he'll come across the line here, hopefully. We'll get to see him to finish 16th place, a gain of 2 positions on the race. So congratulations to Jack on that one. But we have to say, Lorenzo, great performance from Ethan Critchley. Pro-Am, 7th place overall.
Yeah, absolutely. He's showing a really great pace, matching basically everybody in the pros. Going from P5 up to all the way back to P10. Now we're actually in the pro category, and showing up that his car was showing it has strides, you know, and could compete and can make moves, and you're working the strategy very well. And everybody that was above him in the standings didn't do that very well, you know. Webster didn't have a good race. Van den Ness did have the best of race. Hutchinson had the better race over here with Archer as well, and Agency too. But expect a few position gains for Critchley going into the championship.
Well, here are your race results here from this round of the World GT Championship. Ross McFarlane for Pure Sims Esports then is victorious here, getting a 3.2 second win over Jack Sedgwick for Inex Racing in 2nd place. James Armstrong for Brabham Esports in 3rd place, ahead of the Maradna Satellite E-Stars driver of Alex Gall in 4th. Altitude Esports had 5th and 6th place for Mark Fletcher and Tom Dadswell, with Ethan Critchley for Century Sim Esports, the best Pro-Am, in 7th place. Alex Davidson, not the race he'll have wanted here today, finishing up in 8th place for Pure Sims Esports, with Indy Autosport Red 9th and 10th. Tom Brown and Jensen Adrianson's finishing 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am. Michael Gray then in 11th place, ahead of Adam Watson, with Andy Archer and Richard Simner. Pete Harrod 15th place for Century Sim Racing, ahead of his teammate Jack Osborne, the best AM here today, in 16th place. Mark Hutchinson 17th, ahead of Paul Webster, with Ashley Finch and Mike Horder in 20th. 21st for Chris Van den Ness, ahead of Ben Gregory. Jesse Payne Wilkins for Parabellum Racing Team Simability in 23rd. 2nd place in AM, just ahead of Patrick Faulkner for DCW Racing. A race of what could have been for Patrick, I feel, after his earlier incident. Phil Samways, another one who found himself sideways. Martin de Jong had a few spins as well, finishes 26th, ahead of Paul Crawford. Adam Hedgecock, Jeroen Kaiser and Jim Whitehouse finishes 30th. Tim Perry and Brendan Stacey then 31st, 32nd, and then drivers who finished 2 laps down or more: Andy Gilmore, Lars Van Rijn, Jared Carone. What a nightmare it was for Maradna Satellite E-Stars for Jawad, with Ed May T-boning one of your drivers earlier on. Kevin Kittleman, Brian Sohn did not finish. Andy Shield, Adam State, another 2 that did not finish, along with Michael Blake, David Nichols, Michael Evdoka, Matthias Drozda and Jack Belton. So those are your results, pending any post-race penalties. But Lorenzo, we have got the top Pro-Am of Ethan Critchell coming in to have a chat with us. Lorenzo, take it away.
So, Ethan, congratulations on that win, man. And we gotta know, where did you find that pace on the BMW to be so good and stand out among that pro field?
Yeah, I mean, I felt so good entire race. In quali, we were quick, which was surprising. In the practice session, we were only a few tenths behind Ross, which was just unheard of for me at the moment. Yeah, it was a really good race. Managing tyres was the key. The tyre temperatures were pretty shocked from what we've been practicing in. I think it must have been the same for everyone. But yeah, it was a nice race. Winning Pro-Am by 20 seconds is it's satisfying.
And that and this result must give you a boost, moving forward into the championship. Your rivals, direct rivals, didn't perform very well. Maybe Adrian was the closest one in terms of points for you, but at the end of the day, moving forward, which track do you think of all the calendar faces you the best? What do you think you can extract the car the best, which you feel more comfortable with?
Well, personally, if I can remember the calendar, I think Silverstone will probably be the best one for me. The championship hasn't gone to plan so far. I've had a dodgy few races, but these endurance races are keeping me going at the moment. I always seem to do pretty well in the endurance races, so I need to just fix the feature in sprint races. I know it's Long Beach next time round, which is going to be, well, as you probably know, chaos. So yeah. I think it'll just be keeping your car clean, and it's a long championship still. Everything's possible. So it's just about being consistent now.
Of course, Ethan. Well, with that being said, man, go get some rest. Congratulations on the win, and we'll see you next week in Long Beach.
See you later, guys.
There we go. That was Ethan Critchley, and joining us as well is your race winner, Ross McFarlane. I mean, Ross, you had us fooled in the commentary box. We were calling Jack Sedgwick having a good chance of a win, but that strategy play once again in these endurance races has just worked out perfectly for you.
Yep, I was in in agreement with you guys. I thought Jack was going to win as well. I was trying to salvage second place. I'm not quite sure. I'll have to get the details on what exactly happened, but yeah, I came out the pits that last pit stop with a couple seconds in the bag, and yeah, just managed to convert it. But it was a wacky race. I had no idea what was going on. Everyone had pace at different times. People took different tires, different fuel levels. It was bonkers.
And that's it. Basically, all the endurance races have really been bonkers this season. It's been a real mix-up. But we saw yourself and Alex sort of together to start with. Alex seemed to fall back on pace, and you were getting involved with like James Armstrong as well, and Fletcher and Dadswell. They were up there with you. You had to fight for it today.
Yeah, definitely. James was really quick in that first stint. I think with this season's BOP, I'll admit and say the BMW was already very strong at this track, given it's got a reasonable altitude. That turbo really kicks in, and he was very quick at the first stint. I thought maybe he might struggle on tires, and my tires weren't great either, but I think he opted for a different tire strat, and it didn't quite work out. And the altitude guys, ironically, they did a pretty good no tire strat, I believe, but they just had slightly different fuel strats, and they were never quite up there, but at the end of the race they were bloody close. So yeah, there was a good job by all of them. Really good race.
Well, you go from quite high up to pretty much at sea level next. Long Beach. It's going to be an interesting couple of feature races. The last time that we went there wasn't the predicted chaos, so fingers crossed that you get a couple of good results there as well.
Yeah, it's not my best track, I'll admit. So I may drop a few points here and there, but it's all about sticking in it and staying safe there. So yeah, hopefully we have what we had similarly to last time, and a nice clean set of races, and it'll be great.
Well, Ross, thanks so much for joining us on the broadcast here, and go away and celebrate tonight.
Cheers, guys.
There we go. That's race winner Ross McFarlane. And, well, Lorenzo, how do we sum up that race? I think Ross said it best. It was a bit bonkers, wasn't it?
Bonkers at the beginning, you know, crazy in the strategies, especially for Ross. I think he even thought that Jack was actually going to win this, but it got the edge at the end of the day, and that was well done for him. Took advantage that Davidson couldn't cope with the strategy as well, and as we're seeing Long Beach. I feel for you, Paul, because I think we're gonna get pretty. You know, it's either gonna be chaos from the start to finish, and you know, well, it's basically death over here. So it's either gonna be chaos or we're gonna be very tight racing, where I think pit stop's gonna make the difference.
They certainly could do. Make sure you do join us the same place next week, RaceSpotTV, for Long Beach. 2 feature races, including a reverse grid race. You will not want to miss that one next time out. But what a race it's been here from Fuji Speedway. It's a great race win for Ross McFarlane and Pure Sims Esports. I've been Paul Smith. Alongside me today covering has been Lorenzo Bonda, with Hugo Luis behind the scenes on the production. And from everybody here at RaceSpot TV for the World GT Championship with 3M, it's goodbye.